Hello, everyone, and welcome to Reflections from the Prayer Recollection. Today is March 26, 2020. We're going to be looking at Luke 19, 1 through 10. So I'm going to jump in and read that for us. Ready? Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. "Zacchaeus," he said, "quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today." Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus into his house with great excitement and joy. But the people were displeased. "He's gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner," they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, "I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord, and if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much." Jesus responded, "Salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost." So let's jump into this awesome story. First, let's look at how he was described as the chief tax collector in the region. Again, this just plays into how Jesus keeps attracting the people who are considered the worst sinners and the farthest from God. And I just think that is so beautiful. I love the fact, I think it's interesting, and I love the fact that it says that he wanted to see Jesus. So interesting, after the story we just finished about the blind man receiving his sight, now we have another story about a man who couldn't see Jesus and wanted to, and did receive his sight, but he got his by climbing a tree. And I'm like, oh, I love that. Why wasn't everyone climbing into the trees to see Jesus? I want to climb into the tree to see Jesus. I want us all to climb into the trees to see Jesus. And it was so ironic because I read this just shortly before I had read this. My youngest daughter had said, "Mom, watch this," and she showed me how she climbed into the tree in our front yard. She's a good tree climber, and she had on tennis shoes and stretchy pants and a form-fitting winter coat. So she had good agility. She was well dressed for the event. But I imagined this man, like, if people back then dressed the way the pictures showed them, then I would imagine him wearing basically a dress and sandals. And then I imagined the way that my daughter climbed the tree. That would have been much more difficult in a dress and sandals. And if you were a rich man, it would probably be very undignified to climb up that tree in a dress and sandals. So I just think that's interesting that he was so desperate to see Jesus. He just put his pride and his dignity aside. And then when Jesus calls him by name, how that must have captured his heart. And it says, and Jesus says to him that he has to come down quickly, and he does. Again, probably somewhat humiliating. Now everyone is watching. Before he could have at least thought no one was looking at him. Now everyone is looking at him, and he quick comes down that tree in his dress and sandals with great excitement. And great excitement, even though he knew that he must have known that this could mean significant self-sacrifice, as it did end up being for him. But again, he saw the true value of Jesus so much more than riches and wealth, and he longed for that. And so I think that is so beautiful. I think it's funny that they grumbled in a way, because I wonder if they were partly grumbling because they couldn't go. Their pride wouldn't let them go. They thought they were too good to be with a notorious sinner. And so they seemed to like following Jesus around and watching him teach and do his stuff, but they didn't want to go to this tax collector's house. Um, not that they would have been invited anyways, I guess. I don't know how that part works. When Jesus ate dinner at night, did everyone come into the house or wait outside the house? I'm guessing maybe they waited outside. So, it is ironic, though, isn't it, that they thought they were too righteous for the people that Jesus spent time with, and Jesus is the God of the universe. They thought they were too good for the God of the universe. Moving on, I don't quite get the math of how Zacchaeus was able to give away half of his wealth and then 4 times as much what he had cheated, because I was under the impression that tax collectors got a lot of their money, by cheating people and charging more than they were supposed to. That they weren't stopped from charging more, but that they did charge more, and that was basically like stealing from people. And if that's the case, how would he have enough money to have gotten 4 times as much after his wealth was reduced by half? I don't get that. Maybe, much of his money was legitimately earned, or maybe it's how investments earn more money over time for you. But 4 times after being reduced, that seems like a lot. So if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear them. But that's just a side note of curiosity. That's certainly not a significant thing. I think this is really a cool story because Jesus keeps talking about repentance, and this, I think, is true repentance. He had a complete change of heart, and it was so clear because it immediately changed his convictions and his behavior, that he was willing to radically change his lifestyle, as this loss of wealth would, to live in the new way. So selfless. And as I thought about this, I thought about what's going on with coronavirus. And, I've been wrestling with, how do I respond to that? How do I respond in a way that shows the love of Jesus? And I was just reading an email from my friend who does some compassion and justice stuff at our church, that there's apparently a shortage of blood donations because people don't want to go to blood drives because we're supposed to stay home. And I'm starting to think that maybe Jesus wants me to give blood. I don't like that thought, because I don't like blood tests. I mean, they're okay, but I'm certainly really glad when they're over. But I think about that if I needed to receive blood, or anyone in my family needed to receive blood, I wouldn't think twice about going through the process. I assume it's a somewhat similar process to receive as it is to give in some ways. And I would be so thankful for the person who had given blood for me or for someone I loved. And I would happily receive it. But I feel reluctant to give it. And I wonder, why would I do that? Even if it was real, it might be really bad. I don't know, I was reading about it, it doesn't seem that bad, but, lightheaded, or maybe just nervous or anxiety. But why wouldn't I? It's just selfishness. It's just hoarding my privilege from someone in need because I'm scared and I want to avoid pain. And that's not the way that Jesus rolled. Jesus said we give even when it, maybe even especially when it means death to self. It's a tiny example, but I feel like I need to do that. So let's move on. Love the way that Jesus closes this experience by saying, salvation has come to this home today, this home is the home that all the religious leaders were saying Jesus shouldn't be in. So they weren't the ones getting salvation. It was the one who stood before the Lord and gave away his wealth to the poor and multiplied times over made up for the wrongs that he had done people in true repentance. And he goes on to say, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. This is what it means to be a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. So beautiful, isn't it? Yesterday I had an afternoon of solitude. I've been trying to do more solitude experiences this year. But it's been a little discombobulated with the fact that now we have to stay at home, and the fact that everyone's at home, and so I can't go somewhere for solitude because we have to stay here, but everyone is here, so it's hard to be solitary. So it took a big chunk of the afternoon. I just decided to do it in my own bedroom right here. Put up a sign on the door from the bathroom and the hall door, that said I was in a meeting. Everyone knew what I was doing, but I knew I was meeting with Jesus. And this section was really fresh in my mind, and it was so beautiful as I was wrestling and prayerfully journaling through some of the challenges that I have right now, relationship challenges where I'm selfish and it's hurting other people, mostly Michael. And I felt like I really wanted to see Jesus, and I wanted to see my true self, and I felt like this was my climbing up in the tree. And that Jesus did come to me, and he called my name, and he said, come down quick. I'm going to your house tonight. Meaning, he wanted to change my heart, and he wanted me to repent. And it was so beautiful. I am so thankful for you, Jesus. I praise you.